inhabitants, only a small part of the world for land. And only a fraction of this land is suitable for habitation. 3 parts sea, 1 part, that's the earth we live on. Life-giving, life-sustaining land. Land that has known the seeds of liberty and freedom. Land that has known this and this. And why this? Because someone, some group, wish to monopolize the land for selfish and power-hungry purposes. Quarter billions of people who need this very small 1-part land not only need it, but have a right to share it. In the United Nations today, representatives of this Earth's land are attempting to keep the balance straight so that nations will evaluate and deal with each other in the language of peace and security instead of world domination by any one nation or group of nations. To keep the balance straight. To this end, our federal government's job is to evaluate and analyze the power of nations. For instance, Italy. Here we see Italian citizens voting in the peaceful, democratic manner of all free nations. But freedom can be challenged by violators of human rights. And when this happens, how does it affect the rest of the world? What part does it play in our evaluation of Italy? Then there is Greece. How important is she to the peace and security of the United States? In fact, the whole world. Greece, a traditionally maritime nation, easily overrun by the Nazis in the short period of a month. And China. How does this Far Eastern seat of ancient culture fit into our land evaluation? China, a densely populated country, almost the size of continental United States. And Spain, a source of mineral resources, endowed with extremely favorable climate and geographic position. How does she fit into the picture of world security? Yes, today our State Department must evaluate and analyze the weakness or strength of all nations. For any nation can be a contributing factor for peace or war. But what evaluating yardstick do we use to get at the figures? It is not difficult. We simply follow a checklist. First, we look at its position on a map. Then we examine its size and shape. We check its climate. We take into account its population, the distribution of age groups, its birth rate, its natural resources, which are very important. For example, raw materials, industry, the degree to which natural resources are developed, agricultural self-sufficiency, armaments on hand. And then we examine its political and social makeup, which include national desires, political organization, morale, and scientific and technical skills. These are the elements that make up our yardstick, the device for measuring and evaluating a nation. All these factors have an important bearing on how much a country can produce and how effective its military force can be. But there is one element of strength that every nation must have to remain strong. That is the willingness of its people to defend it. For instance, it is possible for a nation to have all the physical and human resources to make it a world power, yet without the willingness of its people to defend it, such a nation might be conquered by a powerful aggressor. Let us take these physical and human measuring sticks and actually size up one nation so we can better understand its world position. For example, Czechoslovakia. With respect to position, this country is locked in by 5 countries. Poland to the northeast, Romania to the southeast, Austria and Hungary to the south, Germany to the north and west. So actually, Czechoslovakia is in a position to be materially influenced or even swallowed up by the nations around her. In size and shape, Czechoslovakia is slightly larger than New York State. Being a small nation, its ability to protect itself in time of war is limited. Almost half of Czechoslovakia's land is good for agriculture. About a third covered with forests. The rest is pasture and meadowland. This means potential wealth. Another beneficial factor is the country's weather, which is very much like that of our North Atlantic states, moderate and variable. This invigorates the people, giving them additional energy or national power. With respect to population, the country has about 15.5 million people. This, too, is an advantage from the standpoint of national power. Natural resources are another of Czechoslovakia's assets. There is an abundance of coal and iron, lead, copper, valuable contributions to the war machine of a superior power. Finally, her social and political makeup, the last item on our evaluating yardstick. In this matter, let us remember that Czechoslovakia was reborn a nation following World War I and had lived the life of a true republic until 1938. In 1938, all of the evaluating factors played a strategic part in the fall of Czechoslovakia and its conquest by the Nazis. The small country, conveniently located, with favorable climate, peaceful people, and with wealth in natural resources, all of these factors offered a great temptation to a strong aggressor seeking world domination. Following World War II, this little nation's character factors made it once again attractive to a conquering power. Exploitation of certain of Czechoslovakia's characteristics brought about this announcement. Czechoslovakia's industrial capacities and rich uranium deposits were responsible for this announcement. Thus, our analysis of Czechoslovakia helps us to evaluate that country's behavior within her own boundaries and among other nations. Long before Russia lowered the Iron Curtain on Western democracies, a British geographer proposed some challenging theories on the power relationship between nations. It was the year 1904. This early and enlightened geographer was Sir Halford Mackinder. Mackinder proposed an evaluation of the comparative importance of the land and sea portions of the globe. In other words, a global view of geography and politics. He saw the Earth as a large body of water surrounding several land masses. One land mass was made up of Asia, Africa, and Europe. He called this the world island. And in truth, it was a world island, a supercontinent made up of 3 continents. A second, smaller land mass was North and South America, and a third, Australia. This was Mackinder's original concept, and with it he introduced in geography a new idea expressed in a new word, heartland. The heartland, or the pivot area, the area that might be made to control the life and political destinies of the world island. As early as 1904, Mackinder believed that if the space, people, raw materials, and industry of this heartland were controlled and exploited by some one nation, say Germany, the power of that nation, because of its central location, would be supreme. Mackinder warned against an alliance between Germany and Russia. Such an alliance, he said, would unite the two countries with the peoples of the heartland to form a mighty center of world power. 3 decades later, under this concept, Mackinder's warning words became an argument in Germany's cry for Lebensraum, space to live, Lebensraum, a Nazi version of Mackinder's approach to the land evaluation of the earth. A laboratory for evaluating nations was the Institute for Geopolitics in Munich, and its guiding light was a retired Major General of the Bavarian Army, Professor Karl H Hopper. Taking for his theme Mackinder's warning about the pivotal area, H Hopper served up Germany's ambitions on a platter, which he presented to Hitler, and Hitler found the seasoning to his taste. Nazi propaganda began to spout such big-sounding words and phrases as
Das Recht auf Grund und Boden, geopolitische Ökonomie, geopolitische Psychologie,
the right to space and soil, geopolitical economics, geopolitical psychology, population pressure, economy of greater space, geomedicine, space struggle, psychology of the landscape. Hitler's disciples were well fed on the Hopper diet. A great many were to masquerade as tourists, visiting professors, traveling salesmen. Their job being to collect a mass of information on nations singled out for conquest. Facts on climate, a country's physical makeup, plant and animal life. Facts on a country's vital ports, sources of power, shipyards, railroads, important arteries of communication, centers of industry, mountains of facts about a nation's character. A complete strategic index of the whole world found its way into the new geography. A geography that helped give the Nazis a blueprint for conquest. World War II caused a great change in our attitude toward the Earth's evaluation. In fact, Mackinder, in the summer of 1943, revised his concept to include 2 heartlands, Europe and America, thereby recognizing the growing influence of the United States in world affairs. His revised theory pictured the world with a great leverage of power stretching east from the Missouri River to central Russia, and showed the British Isles as the center of the power lever between the 2 great heartlands. Our shipments of defense materiel to countries of the North Atlantic Pact shows how we are trying to neutralize the control of that power lever. In other words, we're putting our weight on that lever so that the Soviet Union will find it too hot to handle. All of which shows that our global view has sharpened, giving us a clearer and more realistic understanding of the geographical factors affecting our present position on the Earth's surface. What is our understanding of those geographical factors? In other words, what does a global evaluation tell us? To get at the figures, let us once more observe the land masses of the world. At least geographically, the United States is surrounded by the Eurasian landmass, plus the continents of Africa and Australia. In territory, this area is 2.5 times the size of the Americas, with a population 10 times that of the Americas. To the east is Western Europe, a powerful center because of population density and mechanical energy. To the west is another great power center, expressing its force largely in terms of population density, since more than 1/2 of the population of the world is Asiatic. To the north is the top of the world, the Arctic, where power is expressed in terms of transpolar air routes, made possible by the development of aircraft and guided missiles. In other words, the heart of the Eurasian continent and North America are closer together than ever before. Because of our geographical position among the world's land masses, we are not only within the orbit of encirclement we were in 1942, but within the striking area of the transpolar regions. This fact we call the polar concept. The polar concept. Listen to what high military authorities say about it.
The strategic center in the event of World War III could easily be the North Pole.
Through the Arctic, every industrialized country is within reach of our strategic air. America is similarly exposed. We are, in fact, like many other nations, wide open at the top.
Our frontier now lies across the Arctic wastes of the polar regions.
The polar concept. Like encirclement, the polar concept is a vital factor in the evaluation of our global situation. Since the end of World War II, a revival of the heartland concept has taken place in the Eurasian landmass. Its leaders would change the balance of productive and political power in the world so that they may overcome the productive and technological supremacy of the United States. Yes, the old conception of plain, ordinary geography has gone forever. Today, the nations occupying or controlling the three vital land masses of this earth represent something much more than just geographic areas. They involve areas possessing great and new strategic meaning in today's global politics. They involve areas of power, power that can make or break mankind, power that must be carefully and realistically evaluated if nations are to enjoy their right to share in the Earth's land.